All right, everybody, welcome back. This is the All In ICP episode 2, where AI builds with humans. And today we're going to introduce another new guest, Jason from Japan, another prominent X figure that is going to be joining us perhaps more and more in the future with Chris and I as well on the podcast. Welcome, Jason, and we're grateful to have you, and we'd like to hear about what has interested you in the ICP community.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. I guess, obviously I'm in Japan right now, so it's in the morning, but I think it's the evening for you two gentlemen. It's an absolute pleasure to be on the show, Mike and Chris. Thank you very much for inviting me on. I think, for myself, the journey in ICP, it started just originally looking at the sort of like the ISO 220 tokens, like XRP, um, XLM, Quant, and those sort of like financial services sort of like tokens that was sort of like my journey into blockchain initially. Obviously Bitcoin as well. But I think the whole ISO sort of like narrative captured my attention in the beginning, just because I also felt like there was going to be a sort of like a shake up in terms of what was going to go on with financial SWIFT payments and all that kind of stuff, cross border payments moving forward. But then obviously exploring the ecosystem more and more, the whole crypto ecosystem. I mean, I think I stumbled upon ICP as well, and I think the first person that introduced me to ICP was Bobby O. And I found out about about ICP just before we hit the bottom, like at around $2. I think it was about a couple of years ago. So for me as an investor, it was quite an opportune time, to be honest, to see that there was this sort of like blockchain that this so-called third generation blockchain that could offer compute and data storage and a whole bunch of other things on chain, as opposed to just like a distributed ledger. I think this sort of opened my eyes to the different possibilities within the blockchain space, and it just excited me. That we could have a completely
The next gen
new
cloud.
version, exactly, crypto cloud. So yeah, that's sort of like my journey into the ICP, I guess, ecosystem. I joined Twitter, I think, back in November, not last year, but the year before that. So I've been around for a while, just observing. We have a lot of great contributors to ICP. The community within Twitter, within X as well. Um, and I just try to contribute in my own way. Like I run a translation company. I got my own business, so I pride myself on the way I communicate, whether it be verbal communication or visual communication. So I try to bring that sort of like quality content in terms of like succinct
Really
posts
cool.
and some cool graphics and stuff like that. But you know,
Yeah, we've seen you on X with your demonstrations and your graphics, and you have a really good, like, artistic sort of presence. And I've seen you in the NFT space as well. I have a Ghost. I bought two of them actually recently, and
nice, nice.
especially one of them has really grown on me. But I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, Jason, if you don't mind. Could you tell us a
Yeah, of
little bit
course.
about Motoko Ghost as a whole?
Sure. So, I mean, I guess when you're looking at the NFT space, and I guess, maybe I'll preface this as to why I'm sort of like a big fan of NFTs within the ICP ecosystem is, just because, first of all, I used to be a budding artist back in high school. I was actually planning to go to art school. But as an Asian student with Asian parents, it was sort of like, no, you're not going to make any money being being an artist. So I sort of gave up on that. But I did come first in high school for art, so I was pretty proud of that. So my mother was an art, like she had artistic skills. My wife's an artist, an illustrator.
Oh wow.
So I have a great appreciation for the art world and artists that because it's a tough business, and just the creativity and the beauty of the art world. It's just something that's always attracted been something that's very dear to my heart. I played musical instruments for a very long time: violin, piano, violin especially. I got a
Nice.
couple of scholarships back in the day. I never took them up, but yeah, I was a pretty accomplished violinist as well. But so I love music and art. And to join the ICP community and see so many like talented artists, I just wanted to contribute in my own way with like art on the posts. But getting to your point, Mike, about Motoko Ghosts. So if people don't know about Motoko Ghosts, they are the first NFT collection that
Mm-hmm.
Definity launched, and they launched it on the during their first anniversary since I think the mainnet launched, and I think that party was held in New York. Correct me if I'm wrong, people out there in YouTube or Twitter, but I'm pretty sure it was held in New York. And I think at the time you could just scan a QR code and download as many as you wanted for free in the
What?
beginning. So I'm pretty sure that the people that were there at the time could have hoarded quite a few pretty nice Otoko Ghost at the time. So, and that was, the collection was actually made by John at Poke Studios. So Poke Studios is responsible for a lot of the sort of like the marketing and the sort of like how would I say, the artistic content that Definity pushes out as well. I met John at the third anniversary of ICP Definity at their headquarters in Zurich last year in I think May. He's a really cool dude. So yeah, I've got a few Motoko Ghosts. And since Motoko Ghosts, how would I say, launched, there's now a DAO as well. So there's a Motoko token, and if you own the Motoko token, then you can participate in governance of the DAO. And at the moment, I believe that the DAO has ownership of the Motoko Ghosts canister, and also the royalties that come from that as well. So yeah, that's sort of like, I guess, the story around Motoko Ghost. There are a few other different Motoko collections, official collections and unofficial collections, and we can dive into that as well if you want to talk about that later.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. First of all, Jason, it's just such an honor to have you on. Thanks for joining us.
Likewise, Chris. I appreciate it.
Really, really enjoyed all your takes on X as well as your art, your video posts.
Oh, your art is out of this world, brother. So I mean, for
Cheers.
you to say that, I appreciate that.
Means a
Chris is
lot,
the
brother.
god of production.
Exactly, the crypto cloud master. I mean,
You guys are spoiling me. So yes, the ghosts obviously were the initial release, but there's also the Sentinels account as
yes.
well.
So the Sentinels account. So that's the Motoko, and then it's like I think it's like a zero, and then there's like an underbar and a zero or something like that.
And
That's
they're
for
starting a
the
YouTube channel tomorrow.
Yeah, they're about to launch a YouTube channel, so that's separate from the ghosts. They're the ordinals on the obviously on the Bitcoin network, and then there's also a rather lesser known, but there's the Motoko Mex
Mm.
NFT collection as well, which was launched by Definity during their second anniversary. So that's it's not as well known, but it's a pretty dope NFT collection as well. I have a Motoko Mech in the sort of like in my personal collection as well. But yeah, in terms of official Motoko sort of like collections, yeah, those are the three. So you've got your ghosts that were the first. Then after that came the mechs, Motoko mechs, and then the latest one is the Motoko Sentinels, which is on the Ordinals, sort of like a Bitcoin network. Yeah.
Amazing. Appreciate the overview there. I was curious if you'd be able to give us some alpha on NFT hunting.
NFT hunting. Oh man. I mean, I think there are a lot of professional scalpers and people out there. For me, because I have this sort of like artistic background, I don't really look for maybe not so much. I mean, sometimes I do like my latest Motoko Ghost purchase, which I bought on Christmas Day last year, just as a sort of like a present to myself. Obviously, that I wanted to get a rarer type of Motoko Ghost, so I got one with like the Definity eyes, which is quite rare. I think
Sick.
my the rarity was like 93%. It's not like an ultra rare, like something like Bobby O has or anything like that. But it was, for me, like it was pretty cool. I like the look of it as well. I just like the Definity logo. So to have a ghost that was pretty rare with a Definity logo, I think that was, for me, I sort of base my choices more on the aesthetics. So I'm probably not the best person to ask when it comes to like what's the best way to sort of
Sniping.
like hunt. Yeah, I'm not. Put it this way, I'm not, just you know, looking at tonic or entrepot or DG every day and just waiting for the next release. That's
Mhm.
definitely not me. But I appreciate people that are out there, buying Motokos at a tremendous clip. For me, I appreciate the art. I try to support as many sort of like artists out there within the community, whether for different NFT connection collections as well, whether it be like corporate cats or like
Yeah.
different stuff out there. But just because like I said, I have this appreciation for art, but at the end of the day, I'm an investor, so I don't spend too much money. I mean, it's all relative, right? But I mean, for me, it's trying to buy as much ICP as possible and lock that up. Lock some of it up obviously within 8-year gang. And I have a bit you know staked in the water neuron um, ecosystem as well, and obviously have some liquid ICP too. But I think uh, that's my way of trying to contribute to the community. Try to support some of the artists um, that are in the community pumping out NFTs, and then just trying to pump out some regular content on X and YouTube. I have been slacking a bit on YouTube as of late, but just give more balanced takes. Give props where props are deserved, and Twitter can be a bit of a wild place at times, and just I think
Mhm.
just trying to be the calm head amongst some of the hot heads. I think there's some value in that as well, and just
Yeah,
trying to do my thing.
people definitely value that. Some of the best videos that I have, or some of the highest viewed videos, have been when sentiment has been down. It's because people are looking for the resolution, sort of. But I did want to mention a couple things and leverage your international perspective a bit more. Jason, a couple weeks ago when DeepSeek came out, people in the US were asking questions like, why aren't we set up to leverage this breakthrough? Or why aren't, why aren't, how is
Well, I
America
mean,
sort of benefit from this? But it's just, I'm interested to see your perspective. ICP is kind of at the crosshairs of this thing, so to speak, and it has kind of taken the Wall Street narrative by the tail, at least for the last couple weeks, and it's hard not to see ICP kind of right there. I was just wondering what your perspective is on that, just from the smooth and easy perspective.
well, it's obviously the flavor of the month, so to speak. This whole DeepSeek, China versus USA, OpenAI versus DeepSeek sort of narrative that's captured the attention of many, not just in the USA but around the world. Um, it's interesting, because I think when you look at the US sort of like tech scene. It's big tech. It's definitely, US is all about big tech.
Hmm.
So you have your big players,
The
obviously, like
establishment.
exactly, Amazon, Apple, Meta, um, and then now OpenAI as well. So it's really like I don't know. Like I look at it more of as a corporate oligarchy, sort of like in the US, where big tech dominates, and so in a way, it is sort of like ripe for disruption, because if you have a leaner, more agile player, that can come in and bring something that is comparable at a much lower
Hmm.
cost. Um,
Yeah.
it's obviously going to make some headways. And when it comes from China, then obviously then those headways sort of get amplified even further, because you have this sort of like a rivalry, whether it be real or manufactured by the media. I mean, you can look at it whichever way you want to, but I
Yeah.
just think it was good that they came out with the open source model.
Right.
You
That's where I
know,
was going to
I
go
think
next.
that yeah, that was really the spanner in the works for me.
Right, because OpenAI had the opportunity sort of to be that. What DeepSeek is, the open sourced product where everybody can go to offer their 2 cents to get something great. But they kept it as a closed, they kept everything behind the curtain. So nobody could add more value or perhaps try to take it, just find efficiencies. There wasn't outside people trying to add efficiency and optimization. But now, like with DeepSeek, though, you have this open source thing where everybody can add to it, and it's like that's just sometimes the type of outcome that you can get when you leverage everybody's thinking, as opposed to just, oh, we have this breakthrough, let's just put our wall behind it and then hope that nobody figures out how to copy us or something. It's just two different
Yeah,
perspectives.
yeah, and I just think that's probably a symptom in a way of by the way of, how would I say, like, no one really cares about the data. Like what happens to it. Like everyone knows, in theory, that Meta or like Apple or Amazon, AWS, they own your data and they sell it and they make a profit from it. And it's the same model that OpenAI has used. And I guess it's maybe the complacency, the public's complacency on these matters, that has allowed sort of like the OpenAI model, at least in the beginning, to flourish. I find it, quite refreshing in a way, that this open source model um, has been unleashed, because it also
Mm.
sort of like challenges this narrative that China is bad and USA is good. Like I think like especially in the Western media, it's so binary. It's so, I like to call it basic bitch binary, like BBB. Like I mean, like it's either this or that, and you can't have any nuanced conversation. Like it's either Democrats or Republicans, or it's either like China or USA, or it's either like, I don't know, like whatever you want to, like, I don't know, Pepsi or
Hmm.
Cola or Coca
Yeah,
Cola.
yeah,
Like, and it's just like
right,
you can look at the world through that lens, and that's totally fine, but it might not actually be the real case. And I just,
right.
for someone that like me who studied international relations, as one of my master's degrees back in the day, and so always paid close attention to sort of geopolitical situations and try to get a more holistic view on things. I can see why the media would want to portray things like that, but I also think that if you want to sort of like get a better grasp on what's happening in the world, you just need to have a much more nuanced approach to what what's going on in the world. But that's just me, I guess.
It's almost like it's set up that way so they can control us easier, whoever they is.
Well, in terms of just pure politics, it distracts from the issues at home, right? So I mean, if we can just focus on China, then you don't look at the infrastructure issues that are happening in the USA, for example. Like,
Right.
so I mean, not to say that any country is perfect, but I would just put it out there, just because there are a lot of people in the ICP community that are from North America that it's not as black and white as it may seem.
100%.
Do you guys think we'll be talking about DeepSeek in 6 months or in a year still? Or do you think the conversation will have evolved to something
I
something?
think I think people aren't even talking enough about Quen, for example. So Quen is the new AI model that was released by Alibaba. So Alibaba, in terms of like how would I say business analytics, their Quen model seems to be like the number one at the moment. So there are going to be like lots of different AI models coming out from China, from the USA. Like it's just going to accelerate. Like this is like in I think it's great because you're seeing competition like at like happening like full on, and
Right.
maybe DeepSeek will continue to hold its position, in 6 months' time, or maybe you'll have another sort of like open source model coming out of China that's even better than DeepSeek, or something that's open source coming out of the US or EU. Who knows? Like Japan, it could be Japan. Like it's hard to tell. Like this space is moving so quickly.
Yeah. They're going to be able to leverage data at such a economically disruptive and useful expeditious way that it's just going to be quite a disruptive moment. And I want to see it evolve and manifest inside of a canister in smaller language models where each of them has their expert in the field of whatever their industry is available to sort of leverage at any time for any digital type of experience. Um, but yeah, and I wanted to talk about some like the real business sort of ideas and stuff. We have caffeine AI coming out. I'd imagine we'll be able to optimize things like this show to a large degree and researching ICP and maybe coming up with business ideas is something we could do out in the future as well. But you mentioned, Jason, that you're in the language industry, and
Yes.
I'm I'm interested to see like Web3 start to absorb larger and larger prey items, so to speak. So I'm looking at Duolingo right now, and I'm sensing this as a company that put a lot of time and effort, same way that Microsoft put a lot of money into OpenAI, perhaps. They put $100 million into it, but now there's this deep seek thing that can generate maybe something comparable, but it's 1/100th the cost now. So if you were going to get in, like, this is the way I'm kind of thinking about it. Like, if it is this breakthrough that we think it is, you would have had to spend 10 billion a year ago to get what you can get now with 5 million, perhaps. So, in other words, with 5 million, you have the same capabilities as somebody who spent in the billions a couple years ago. So, it's with that level of capability and obviously the tremendous savings in computation and storage and like the other thing is I think you'll be able to have like these longer term interactions with your customers with this agent where it remembers what you talked about like last interaction and 6 interactions ago and the procedure that you suggested 6 months ago and all that stuff. It's like, remember that thing we talked about in January of 2021? It's like, oh yeah, the file XYZ, here it is. And it's like, this thing's like the optimization is just going to be crazy. And I think there'll be like in the thing in like learning language, like you'll have multiple different agents like communicating with you perhaps like in a business sort of sense and in like a relationship type of environment where you can have these conversations with the AI and it'll just make subtle suggestions about what you need to change or say differently or what they were trying to say and how you just to make sense of it or something like I just envision there being a variation of Duolingo DAO owned and controlled at like 1/10 the price. Maybe it doesn't work quite as good, but it's $10 a year instead of $100 a year. Is that? Do you think that maybe in your industry you could see something like that happening, or what are your thoughts on business ideas in general?
So, I mean, so I, so I'm in the translation business, which is slightly different from the language sort of like acquisition learning business. So I just wanted to put that out there first. And I guess, when we're talking about AI, one of the first industries, and I think Chris can probably attest to this, when it comes to also, like art and graphic design and all that kind of stuff, like translation was targeted as one of the first industries that will probably go under, um, you know, because
Right.
of the developments of AI. Obviously, I think there are people that have been put out of work because of AI, but I think also there are, as with everything, there are levels to this game. And I think for my translation company, we operate on the higher end of things. We the level of the difficulty in terms of what we have to handle on a day to day for translation materials is much harder than just what some other just freelancer might take on. So we do get some work nowadays where we're checking what AI has written, but at the end of the day, for me, that's still money coming through the door. That's still work coming through the door. And some people in our industry, they rail against it because they're just so against this whole AI thing, coming in. But for me, as a business owner, as a translator as well, I think AI is a fantastic tool. It's a great tool to get new ideas to potentially how to rephrase a certain, sentence that I've written, to find different synonyms and different sort of like, just as a tool, it's fantastic. And obviously, you've got to use the tool in a way that's not obviously going to be breaking any sort of like confidentiality agreements and whatnot. But as a professional, I mean, it's very easy for me to understand where the boundaries lie and step forward accordingly. But just to sort of bring the conversation back more towards what you were saying in regards to Duolingo and language learning apps. To be honest with you, I don't use Duolingo, so I actually had to ask my girls, my two daughters, about Duolingo and what they thought of it and what was cool about it. And they were saying like like you can earn badges or like rewards and stuff like that, and then you sort of level up. So it's sort of like you get to a different level, a different stage, and that's how it progresses. Sort of like a
Right.
gamification, I guess, of learning. And that's perfect for Web3, right? That's perfect for ICP because then you can actually deal with real tokens, right? You can deal with real tokens that you can trade on the marketplace, and trade within different apps as well, potentially. Like, you might have, a Duolingo token, but if it's available on the marketplace, then you could go to maybe your Dragons game and then just swap your Duolingo tokens for some Dragons tokens, and then just use that to level up and buy NFTs within the Dragons game that's coming out on ICP. So, like, I mean, definitely there is, I think, a business case for a Duolingo on ICP on Web3. Whether I will, take up that challenge or not remains to be seen. I'm pretty busy with what I'm doing already as is, but I think it would be a fantastic sort of like idea to pursue further. So hopefully that answers what you're trying to ask.
A lot of the like industries I want to sort of dive into over time are going to be from that question you asked, like which ones are going to be heavily affected or terminated, changed, altered by the AI situation the most. Can I get a list of 100, and then just go through and maybe pick like the top 15 of them and just start undercutting, like replicate, advertise, undercut, like I hate to say it like that, but I kind of think that's what's going to happen, where you'll be able to offer the same product at a lower price with the security that people need, and if you're and if you're into that, like those valuable data sets, where like, because right now, I mean, data's data, and like you had the national public data hack where everybody in America basically had their social and email and physical address and phone number and all that stuff, and it's like, well, is that the same value data as, who made an order for grandma's cookies website? It's like, no, those are two different calibers of data. So, but there's just no real way to get the security that's needed to leverage those more valuable data sets is kind of where I think we're kind of at a standstill, actually, sort of until that moment where Nvidia overproduced all these circuits and chips, whatever, and now there's meaning behind the madness in companies like DeepSeek, and the material gains are now coming from the management and the learning and the oversight, not necessarily in the quantity, the speed, the power, the massive scale. It seems like it's more on the in-house side of things. So I'm happy to see that, and I think it plays nicely to ICP. Um, I was told that it actually went down DeepSeek, or it got hacked or crashed as we knew it would. But I just wonder when they're going to launch one on ICP inside a canister, and I think that might be the aha moment that people are kind of waiting for.
I think you're right, and I just think obviously we need to obviously wait for a few more updates. Obviously to the ICP ecosystem by Definity.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be with more WASM sort of like a 64-bit like capability introduced, or what was the other thing? That
The
obviously
keys.
they're thinking about GPUs, vet keys, you know, and I think right now you can run AI inference on ICP, maybe not the learning at the moment. And I think it's a gradual process. For me, it's always been we're already at, how would I say it, the bleeding edge, not even the cutting edge. I like to call it the bleeding edge of blockchain, Web3 technology. And I just, I let the Definity devs do what the Definity devs need to do. Like I'm not really, like I see a lot of people very impatient, like,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's always very much tied down to short-term price action for a lot of people in the ecosystem as well. And it is what it is. Some people obviously they want the gains, they compare their coin ICP to whatever's happening in the broader ecosystem, whether it be like XRP or Bitcoin or even H bar, and it's like, why aren't we pumping? And I think that in turn also leads people down to the somewhat risky path of meme coins as well, to try to get that short term buzz. And once again, it's it's a reflection on society as a whole. I think nowadays, where it's we're bombarded on social media, and our attention spans are frazzled, and we can't wait for more than 3 seconds for some form of gratification. So I'm a bit of an older head, and I'm happy to wait it out and see what happens. But I definitely think, like what you were saying, Mike, about like AI being on a canister, that's the way it's looking like it's going to be, just because of the whole the
Mm-hmm.
security, the
Yeah.
transparency, like scalability, all of these different things. It seems like it's playing to ICP's strengths, and
Yeah.
I think it's just about patience, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I wanted to mention a couple of the things, and I think, Jason, you might have had some bullet points as well, but
Sure.
the NFID is one thing that's helping connect the ecosystems together. I think with this chain fusion. The other thing is this Vly wallet that I've heard about. I know you have a explanation for me on that as well.
Sure. So Yeah, Vly wallet is another sort of like ICP, a wallet that has been built on the ICP blockchain. Um, the handle on X is at VLYAI, and I think it's pronounced Vly, if not Fly. But I think the team's coming out of Singapore, and sort of like their claim to fame is that you can you can tip somebody on Twitter, on X, sorry, without even knowing the other person's how would I say wallet address. So like if somebody posts something, and I'll give a real life example. So Chris, a few months ago, he posted a really cool video on X, and then I can just drop in the URL of Chris's post into the Vly wallet, and then I can just choose whatever token I want to use to tip Chris with. I think I gave him like 500 like, which is the native sort of like Vly wallet token. I think I
Thank you,
tipped
bro.
five. No, not at all. You totally deserved it, if not more. So, just by knowing Chris's posts URL, I can tip
Hmm.
Chris. You can even tip Bitcoin or Ethereum, ICP obviously, Solana coins as well.
Wow.
Um, so it's very seamless in the fact that I don't need to ask you what's your PID or what's your address. And I just think that what they've done is super cool. And then once again, they're using ICP's technology, so you don't need to you know remember a 24 word password or anything like that. It's all built into the sort of like the ICP tech stack, so it's very easy to create an account. Yeah, and they just recently introduced what they proclaim to be the world's first gasless stablecoin. So they have a V in lowercase v USD. So you can tip people with this VUSD coin as well. So it has zero gas fees, which is pretty incredible. Sub-second transaction finality, and the great thing is that they're using the USDC peg on Solana. So once again, we've got all this chain fusion stuff happening as well. Like which is only possible with ICP. So they're claiming it's going to be great for AI powered transactions as well. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what the Vly team is doing in terms of we have a lot of pretty promising wallets. I don't know, a lot of people criticize the whole wallet ecosystem within ICP. I think Plug gets quite a bit of flack. Um, I think we have
Stoic.
Oisi, yeah, Stoic. Like I mean, there's I guess people compare it to other wallets. I don't really know other wallets in other ecosystems. I know MetaMask, and that's about it. But I think what Oisi is doing as well is pretty cool with their wallet. Obviously, NFID as well, which was their launch on the SNS just passed yesterday. So they're the first DAO controlled um, wallet. I think not just within ICP. I just think probably ever. So that's an exciting sort of like development within the sort of like the wallet ecosystem in ICP. So, I think we're taking. There are a few really promising projects out there, and yeah. So I like personally. I like what Oisi, Vly, and NFID wallets are doing. But yeah, so I did contribute a little bit to the SNS launch, and I just think that Dan, he's been pretty active, on X within Discord. Like I had a few issues setting up my NFID wallet back in the day, and he really helped, troubleshoot for that. So, and he's out there promoting it, and who knows what's going to happen with it. But I just think for me it'd be just good to support an initiative like that, just because I think when you look at the fees that wallets can generate, transaction fees and so forth. If you can bring some of that sort of like revenue to the DAO, you know,
Mm,
the people that are in the DAO, that
yeah.
might be something lucrative. It might not be, but I'd rather take that small bet than not make that bet at all, I guess. Mm.
Well, I didn't want to derail us too much, but I'm just curious as to your personal journey. Like, so you're from Australia originally,
Yeah,
correct? And
well,
you're
actually born in Malaysia, actually.
wow. Okay.
Born in
Yeah,
Malaysia, and then I moved to Australia when I was 2 with my parents.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you quickly run us through your personal journey
Sure,
and how
sure,
you ended
sure.
up in Japan? And
Of course.
would love to hear more about your translation company as well.
Yeah, no doubt. No, I appreciate that. So yeah, so my parents are Chinese Malaysian, so they were born and raised in Malaysia. Um, then my mom, she always wanted to sort of like I guess work overseas. So she saved up her pennies, so to speak, and she was able to go to nursing school in England out of high school. So she had a vision from a very young age to get where she wanted to get to. And then she obviously was able to go to nursing school in England, which opened her eyes up to a lot of, I guess, opportunities, um, and new friends. And there was an opportunity at the time, I think, for registered nurses in Malaysia to get a visa to live in Australia. I think the first time she applied, she wasn't successful, but I think the second time she was. So, I think that was the start of the whole Australia journey. So, yeah, I moved over when I was 2. So, obviously, I don't remember much about Malaysia. But, we have lots of relatives. So, I've been back, numerous times just for holidays and stuff like that. But yeah, born and raised, well, not born and raised in Sydney, Australia.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so, and I was there until I was 19 years old. I first got exposed to the Japanese language and culture in high school. So, I took Japanese as a sort of an elective class in high school. And the funny thing is, and it's something that I tell everyone, is that I came dead last in Japanese every year I took it in high school. Um, but one day my teacher was like, there's this scholarship to study at university in Japan. Um, and you get all expenses paid and you get like a stipend and all this kind of stuff. And like, if you're interested, just come to my office after class and we'll get you signed up. And I was the only person in my year in my school that actually applied for it. I mean, it's a worldwide, Australia-wide sort of like offer. I don't think they offer it anymore, but yeah, I applied. I did a few tests. Then the funny thing is, there was an interview. I got to the final stage, I guess, because I guess academically I was doing all right at the time, but um, except for I guess maybe the Japanese language test. But at the interview, the dudes, three very stern-looking Japanese government officials were sort of like, looking at my very threadbare CV, and they noticed that I, have, I study Japanese in there, and they're like, okay, so can you speak a bit of Japanese to us, and I managed to say maybe like konnichiwa and like my name is Jason in Japanese, and that was the extent, at the time, and I was just like, oh damn, I definitely I made it this far, but I'm pretty sure I flunked the interview. But the last question they asked me, which is quite funny, they were like, if you do get this scholarship, what's the first thing you're going to do when you get to Japan? And I guess they were expecting some really nerdy answer, but I just blurted out karaoke, and they just and they just all cracked up, and I thought, I failed it, and I went and I actually applied for, university in Sydney, I had some pretty good scores. So I was actually applying to be a biomedical engineer and a mechanical engineer, like a double degree, sort of like a science degree, at the time. But then one day the letter came, in the mailbox, and this like saying like you got the scholarship, and I was like, you got to be kidding me, because I was already ready to head off to university in Sydney. But um, that was sort of like the journey. So yeah, I ended up studying law in Japan for my undergraduate, just because at the time Australian students weren't allowed to study science subjects. I don't know why, but that was just the rule in place. But that was a great experience. It was great. Japan is a great country. I'm obviously living in Japan right now. Um, there was a bit of a
You
10-year break.
you got better at speaking
A
Japanese,
little
obviously.
bit, so it's like, so I say to everyone, like, I was the worst at Japanese, and now I'm probably one of the best in Australia. Like, if not, one of the,
Sure.
you know. So it's funny how life works out, but it's like if you stick with something, and you enjoy what you do, and I mean, you could probably say, the same thing, yourself, like, especially like Chris, like when I'm looking at you doing, like, the stuff that you do. What's the it's not called trapeze route. The
Highlining. We call it
highlining, yeah,
slack
like, yeah,
lining.
highlining,
Shut up
slacklining,
with
yeah, like
highlining. Uh-huh.
it's not like that's something that you can master overnight, right? It's a
Sure.
process,
Yep.
So everything's a process, and it's good to see, like, the fruits of, I guess, your efforts at the end of the line, so to speak. Yes, that's my journey. Yeah, yeah. So I think
Amazing.
collectively, I think it's about 15 or 16 years in total in Japan.
Really cool.
Really cool.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah,
Not at all.
100%. And Jason, are there any other projects that you're interested in on ICP, and generally speaking, or any that you're
Well, I
thinking,
mean,
or anything that might be something that you're interested in or curious of? Or
yeah, yeah. There are actually, there's probably too many. That's why I've always got to sort of like,
ah, yeah,
kind of like, calm myself down a little bit, so to speak, because it's just, as you know, like, ICP is trying to be the new internet, so that means that there are so many different projects happening all the
hmm,
time.
yeah,
I think just because I do have this sort of like love for art, I'm keen to see what I can do potentially for the Motoko Ghosts DAO, and for the Twitter, the X account. I want to sort of like push out some graphics and animations for the Motoko Ghosts X account. We'll see how that goes. I mean, um, we'll see if the community sort of responds favorably to it. If they do, that's great. If not, then we can we can try other things. But that's probably something that I'm pretty keen to do. So I've been speaking with Accumulating about doing that for the Motoko Ghosts, and the sort of like the X account. I think the three of us are sort of like in the crypto cloud sort of like group as well.
That's right.
So I try to do a little bit here and there for crypto cloud. I really like, you know um, how would I say, the whole vision and the concept behind it. Obviously, Bobby and Eric Potter. Um, those are probably like the two people I respect the most in the ICP ecosystem. So to be able to work with Bobby and Eric, I also work with Eric on LinkedIn as well. So we run the IC ambassadors page on LinkedIn to sort of like post some news about the internet computer on the LinkedIn sort of like in LinkedIn ecosystem as well. So there are a few things that I'm doing there. Just more on the educational side of things. Just maybe if this whole thing with the Motoko ghosts, works out, I'd really like to reach out to a lot of different NFT collections through the ghosts account and sort of like do sort of like chain fusion, but NFT fusion within an ICP. Like
Mm.
Love it.
bring more communities together, um, and bring more artists together. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to say like I'm the only person that can contribute to art, on Motoko Ghost. I'm probably, when you look at the caliber of people that are out there, I'm sure that there are many people that could do much better work than myself. But I think I'd just like to kick it off and see, if we can get more people, interested in contributing, to grow the brand, to grow awareness, to hopefully take it to the same level as what the Motoko Sentinels are doing with their account on X. Because Clack, she's doing a fantastic job, for the Motoko Sentinels account, especially when it comes to the animations that they're pushing out. Like, it's really high quality,
Is
and
she
they're
the
huge.
animator? Do they have a team?
I actually don't know the
Okay,
ins and outs.
phenomenal.
I'm pretty sure there is a team. Because I know that there are a few Japanese ICP aficionados also pumping out content for that account as well, who I've approached to potentially do some stuff for the Motoko Ghosts too. But yeah, I just think they're going to be releasing a YouTube channel soon, which is going to be fantastic too. So maybe we can even get like Moti up on as a guest,
Yeah,
here,
we
in the future. That'd be dope. Like, I think, you know
100%.
just trying to, you know invigorate the whole NFT space, because I think, it's I guess since the last bull run, when the whole ETH, it's sort of like NFTs blew up and then just absolutely tanked. NFTs, I guess, haven't been, that popular, perhaps. But I think when you look at the activity, at least within the Motoko Ghosts NFT collection, it's pumping. I really like, collections like Agito Val with like his IC Bucks and stuff like that. There are a lot of artists that I really respect. Like, so to be able to do different cool things, maybe through Motoko Ghosts, that would be something that I'd be pretty keen to do. Obviously, if you'd be happy to have me back, I'd be more than happy to just chat about ICP and what's happening in the ecosystem with you two fine gentlemen as well. I think there's like, as we discussed earlier, there's a potential niche out there for us that we could potentially capture and provide real value, to the ICP ecosystem. But I'm just very very happy to be here. I think it's a great group of guys in general. Just within the Twitter community, the X community, and just excited to see where ICP is going to be in the next 6 months, 12 months, and further down the track.
Let's
Yeah, I
go.
think out in the future we could definitely do something like once a week, given the amount of new businesses and applications and utilities, use cases, narratives. There's just going to be so much to talk about, and I really see it touching almost every industry, and especially those ones that are on that list that you mentioned, Jason, that are going to be affected or are going to be sort of like you merge with it or you become obsolete. And I hate to say that, but I think there's just going to be a whole lot of opportunities like that. And for for a group of people like, let's just say cloud, for example, to have people ready to go into action and follow the lead of 2025 inference to spot market opportunities or cutting edge opportunities or timely opportunities. I think there's just going to be a I just think there's going to be a surplus of opportunities coming to discuss and engage and participate, promote brand, all that stuff. So it's a good time to be gaining some popularity. I hope that people enjoy this type of video today. It's sort of to be determined what the magic length of video is, but it depends on the material. And
Exactly.
yeah, we're just going to keep sort of delivering the best we can. And yeah, from all that I've got here, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Chris and Jason, you guys want to say anything else before we shut it down here?
I just appreciate your time, Jason. Thanks for sharing with us. Um, to your last point, we're going to need AI to figure out, like, there's going to be so much to talk about. There's going to be too much to talk about. We're going to need AI to help us determine what's worth our time covering, you know? Like, it's just going to reach the
That,
exponential
that,
wave where we'll be overwhelmed with possibilities, which is really exciting. Um, but anyways, yeah, looking forward to more collaborations, Jason. Helping expose more art in the eco and more valuable projects in general. And yeah, just looking forward to the future.
100%. No, it's been an absolute pleasure to be on today with you both, Mike and Chris. I think, to your point, like just take 1 week, off from X, and then come back and you just realize how much you've missed out in the ICP ecosystem. Like, I mean, I've done that, just like in the new
Mm-hmm.
year. And I think I wrote a post about it. Like, it's just insane. Like, you just cannot keep up. Like, it's just so
Yeah,
much happening, which is exciting. And then, like,
yeah,
to your point, we could have an AI bot as the fourth speaker, just to sort of prompt
We
us.
could.
Like, we could be the first. We could be the first sort of like channel where we have an AI bot fully on chain. Like, that can be our calling card.
That's a
yeah.
brilliant idea.
Chat mod.
Honestly,
It's like
brilliant
Yeah,
idea.
Big Red in chat donates one ICP to Chris Yost or something. That'd be funny, man. That'd be pretty funny.
exactly. Sky's the limit, though.
All right, guys. Well, hey, this has been great. We'll shoot up another pod again in the future, and yeah, we'll take it from there. Appreciate everybody watching, and this has been the All In ICP episode number 2. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Much love, y'all.
Take it easy.